Thank you. Are you ready, Mayor?
I'm ready.
Go.
It's time to call to order the regular meeting of the McAllister City Council, Thursday, March 23rd. We do have a quorum. We have Primus Moore here to lead us in the pledge and invocation. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, we come tonight giving you thanks and praise for watching over us. We ask your continued guidance and watch over our city, and be with this council tonight as they plan for this city. We ask this in the name of all our constituents. In your Son's name, amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Corey, call the roll, please.
Councilman Smith?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Cox?
Here.
Boatright?
Here.
Pritchard?
Here.
Mayor?
Here. We are on to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda. The residents must provide their name and address, and council requests that comments be limited to 5 minutes. I didn't have anybody sign up, but if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address a non-agenda item, I don't see anyone. We will move to the consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Tonight, the agenda consists of A, approval of minutes from February 25th, 2021 special meeting of the McAllister City Council. B, approval of minutes from the March 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the McAllister City Council. C, approval of claims for March 3rd through March 16th, 2021. Concur with the mayor's reappointment of Jeremy Spiegel to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire March 31st, 2024. E, consider and act upon a revised proclamation declaring a state of emergency. Would anyone like anything removed from the consent agenda? Okay, so I'll take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Cox, second, Councilman Smith. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We are now on to a public hearing. All persons interested in any ordinance listed under scheduled business shall have an opportunity to be heard in accordance with Article 2, Section 212B of the City Charter. Tonight we have 5. The first is an ordinance of the City of McAllister, Oklahoma, amending McAllister City Code Chapter 100, telecommunications by creating Article 3, small wireless facilities, amending Chapter 48, fees, charges, and service rates, creating Article 3, small wireless facilities, repealing all conflicting ordinances, and providing for severability. The second is an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto, known as General Zoning Ordinance Number 1843, by changing the classification of the zoning districts for a tract of land in Lot 74, Townsite Edition Number 4, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from A1 Agricultural District to R1B Single Family Residential District. The third is an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto, known as General Zoning Ordinance for number 1843, by changing the classification of the zoning districts for a tract of land in Lot 90 Townsite Edition Number 4, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from H1 Health Facilities District to C5 Highway Commercial and Commercial Recreation District. The fourth is an ordinance of the City of McAllister, Oklahoma, amending McAllister City Code Chapter 62, Land Development, Planning, Zoning, and Subdivisions, Article 4, Zoning Districts and District Regulations, Division 2, Specific Districts, to modify the uses permitted after review of Section 62-261, C2 Neighborhood Convenience District, Section 62-262, C3 General Commercial District, Section 62-263, C4 Restricted Commercial District, and Section 62264, C5 Highway Commercial and Commercial Recreation District, specifically to permit multifamily residential uses, repealing all conflicting ordinances and providing for severability. And the fifth is an ordinance amending Chapter 106, Utilities of the McAllister City Code, amending Article 6, Regulation of Utility Lines, amending Chapter 48, Fees, Charges, and Service Rates, repealing all conflicting ordinances and providing for severability. I would take a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Councilman Cox. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and we are now in a public hearing. If anyone would like to address us on the first, seeing no one, anyone would like to address us on the second? Seeing no one, anyone would like to address us on the third? Seeing no one, anyone would like to address us on the fourth? Seeing no one, if anyone would like to address us on the fifth? Seeing no one, I take a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, then we are now out of the public hearing. We will move on to scheduled business. Item 1, presentation and discussion of energy efficiency across all city facilities. Councilman Stevens, I believe that one's yours.
Yes, sir. This evening, Mr. I hope he's there. He should be there. He told me he was. Matthew Graham. Matthew, are you there?
Yeah,
Can we get your
thanks.
presentation?
Thanks, Coley. Yeah, I am here.
I will tell you there's a little bit of lag.
Okay. This could be like a cruel practical joke on me now. I can't really see, but with all that being said, it's something that when we're talking about our water and sewer lines, we're talking about crumbling infrastructure and things like that in the city, I just happen to come across with Matthew in what I do outside of council with real estate, helping people and commercial properties and things like that, where they have some programs that can help. But as we started to talk and discuss a few more things, he had some things that he mentioned to me that I thought could be a really good program for the city of McAllister to consider. I know that we did something similar to this, or we started down this path years ago, and we ran into some issues with bidding and some of the laws at the time, which I believe now have changed. So I thought this was a good thing for us to look at and consider, and just kind of at least help them out tonight on. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn it over to Matthew now.
Thanks, Coley. Councilman, thank you all for your time today. I know that you guys have a book of an agenda tonight, so I'm going to run through this as absolutely fast as possible. So, a little bit about, we're basically going to run through what the... Sorry, I was literally trying to look under there on slideshow.
I've got to do an adjustment because this was we haven't got that adjusted yet. Take it just a moment to warm up.
Thank you. Thank you. So basically, we're going to run through tonight just a little bit about us. We're going to go through an ESPC overview after talking with Coley. That might be an avenue that's worth looking into as a city. We're going to talk about our approach. Like he mentioned, you guys have went down this road before, so we want to talk about how our approach differs from what you've done in the past. And then we're going to talk about what the next steps are and leave some time for you guys to ask any questions if needed. I will run through this really quick because I want to respect your all's time. So a little bit about who we are. We're an energy savings performance contract company. We optimize buildings. So essentially, if there's any way to save money, we touch it. So LED lighting, we have an LED lighting division, a solar renewable division, commissioning, retro commissioning, building envelope, building testing, water conservation, and an energy auditing and sustainability division as well. So a little bit about our geographical presence. We work in all 40 states. We do have an office right here in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City. We've got a $2 billion bonding capacity, so we're more than capable of handling projects just like these. A little bit about our Oklahoma clients. You'll see some up there that you recognize. I'll call out the state of Oklahoma. So with Energy Savings Performance Contracting, we're one of 2 entities in the state of Oklahoma that can work on state facilities. We went through a huge vetted process. We're very familiar with ESPC here in Oklahoma. We're very familiar with how to make it benefit the cities and the government structure. Not many times do I get to come in and talk about our local clients, so we do work with PSO. We're a trade ally in good standing with PSO. We work across all commercial rebate sectors for them. We're also the exclusive small business provider for Okmulgee to Broken Bow, which encompasses the McAllister area. We've actually helped over 100 facilities convert over to LED and pull in rebates here in the McAllister area alone. So that's everything with just a McAllister zip code. We've brought over $700,000 of rebate money from PSO and brought it into the community and helped these projects save money. We listed a few of them down there. So a little bit about ESPC for people that are not familiar with it. It basically allows public entities classified like yourself to procure energy savings improvements with no upfront capital costs. I'm not coming in asking for any budget dollars, and then we're able to repay those savings based on the energy savings. So the keys in that, no upfront capital cost. Paid from the savings, we have to guarantee it. So if we tell the city that it's going to save $1,000, it saves $800, we have to cut you a check back for the difference to make you whole on that. And it's also backed by state legislation, which we'll review in a second. So why is ESPC a good idea? So basically, state-enabled legislation is Title 62, Section 318. It essentially allows us to leverage energy efficiency measures to address deferred maintenance item, which essentially frees up capital budgets. So essentially, cities just like yourself, we're working with a ton of cities across the state, and you guys have all dealt with COVID. You have budget deficits, and essentially this allows you to leverage your energy savings, not just receive the energy savings on it, but it allows you to leverage some of your deferred maintenance items as well. So there is no risk to it to the city. It's got guaranteed savings on it. We give guaranteed max prices. You get a performance bond throughout the process. It's budget neutral, and we have to measure and verify it to ensure you are getting the savings that we say that you're getting. There is financial incentives available. So there's obviously the state legislation helps with that as well. There's rebates available through PSO, your local provider, and right now there's a very historical low cost of debt. So essentially this right here is your picture of what you're currently spending in your annual energy operational expense. This is just your budget currently. What we're essentially going to do is come in and do energy efficiency improvements, which will lower your annual energy and operational expense after the improvements. The dotted line there shows the guaranteed savings. So that's what we have to guarantee the city that they're going to save. And then essentially inside of that, we're able to put your debt service inside of there, get all of your items done. This could include LED, lighting, water conservation. I know that you guys have started some advanced metering here across the city as well, and HVAC controls, retro commissioning, and then we'd even look at some renewable energy stuff. And essentially inside of this, you may have, so to get all of your energy efficiency stuff done, it costs you this much. This is how much it's costing you. Still have all of this savings left that's still guaranteed, which then you're able to relieve it off of your budget. So say inside of your budget, I did take a look at your 5-year capital plan before coming in here. So just the improvements that you have to the buildings, the anything that you guys have, you can basically put inside of that area there, and we have to guarantee the savings. And the key to it is you're not spending any more after we get done with the project, including those deferred maintenance items, than you were currently today. So the real question is, how are you going to spend the leverage savings? So we've got the savings, we've got this extra cash flow now that's essentially inside of this guaranteed project, saying you're not spending any more than you're currently spending. We're getting done all the energy efficiency projects, and now we have this much bucket of money, and I'll run through some examples in a second, of that you get to spend on deferred maintenance needs of the city. So you can spend them on security. There's no energy savings in security upgrades. That's up to you. HVAC upgrades, budget deficits, infrastructure upgrades, deferred maintenance needs, or really any project that you guys want. So how does our approach differ? Like I said, you guys have done this before. So one thing that we pride ourselves in is we're transparent in the procurement process. When you guys did this before, likely someone slapped down a piece of paper that said, this is what we're going to do and this is how much it's going to cost you. And you're like, well, how much is the lighting going to cost? How much is the HVAC going to cost? And the way that we do it is we basically break out line by line exactly what you're paying for the project, exactly what the markup is in the project, to make sure that you're getting the best project possible. The other thing on here to note is the community subcontractor engagement. So one thing we do after receiving the project is we then bid out each scenario. So LED lighting's in there. We have an LED lighting team. Our team has to compete for that. We don't just give ourselves the project. They have to compete, showing that they are the best quality for the city. The community subcontractor engagement's key. So, I mean, essentially you have local subcontractors that need money in the community that like to do work. And if you do a large project here, we're able to get them involved, so this way you can keep some more of that money local. We are an Oklahoma organization. We've got 2 offices here, so we know the Oklahoma laws as well. So the next steps. What am I here basically asking for today? Step 1, preliminary analysis. This is 100% free, so I actually have a pretty good job that I'm sitting here with right now. All I'm asking for is a free analysis of the city facilities, which will essentially allow us to come back and present to you what we see the savings and guaranteed savings possibilities are. As an estimate, a high-level overview of the city, this gives you all as councilmen the ability to decide, is this a project worth pursuing or not? And then we have that data inside of the preliminary assessment. So what is our high-level walkthrough going to look like? We're basically going to send an energy engineer to site. We're going to do a high-level walkthrough of the lighting. We're walking into the buildings and seeing, do you have T12s? Do you have LEDs? And we're not counting every light in this stage of the project. We're going to look at the HVAC systems. Are they outdated? Is there potential energy savings we can pull there? Building envelope, water as well. We're going to get estimates based on your utility data. So you guys will provide us utility data. We'll figure out what the spend is of the city to be able to put these high-level proposals together. This is an example of something that may come back. It's a big report, 40 pages, 50 pages long. However, this comes back out of it and we say, okay, your current annual spend is $380,000. We're estimating based on our walkthrough that we'll be able to save you somewhere around 25 and 30%. That means that we'll be able to guarantee in a project between $76,000 and $133,000. Keep in mind, this is a high-level overview to make sure we have a project here. We will do a more in-depth study as we're going along. In this specific project, it was about a $1.7 million project in this example. $1 million of that was deferred maintenance money, or whatever they wanted to spend it on at that point that they were able to leverage out of the energy savings of the project. This is a little larger one. This is a city that we're doing currently. They're doing a $22 million project. $12 million of that is their deferred maintenance. In this scenario, they're buying a couple new police cars with it, a couple fire trucks, and a lot of miscellaneous stuff. But essentially in this project, this is how it shapes up. So as you can see, we put something together showing your utility savings, operational savings to equal an annual savings, and then your debt service has to cover these costs. So once again, annual energy costs here on the left, we're going to reduce that, we're going to guarantee your savings, and you're not just going to get energy efficiency items done with it, but you'll be able to pack deferred maintenance stuff in it as well. A couple things to remember, we're going to put a GMP together in it, we're going to put a guaranteed minimum savings in it, guaranteed by the measurement and verification. There's no additional budget allocations that we're asking the city to do. We put something together that's completely budget neutral and benefits the city. It addresses some of your deferred maintenance items as well that you guys already have in your budget to free up that budget cash flow. There's financial transparency that we have, and we just have a good construction background. That was fast to run through something like that. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Stevens again, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something that I think was enticing to me when I first talked to Matthew a little bit about this was 2 things really. One, we've got quite a bit of deferred maintenance across our community, and that's beyond lighting and HVAC. That's water lines, sewer lines. We've got a water and sewer plant that we've been allocating and talking about money and improvements there that we need to make, and we need to make now. And we've started to. But what I like about this idea, or at least starting this process, and full disclosure, I think that we should do this. I'm in favor of it. That's why we've got it on the agenda. But I think that it can be a good step, at least a free step to start to have another set of eyes come in and look at something. Whether it proceeds forward, maybe Matthew and them come back and say that it's a deal killer of a project and we wouldn't do it, we don't recommend, great. Maybe they come back and say, we think you ought to do it for this, this, and this reason, and we look at it as a council and go, we don't agree. we don't have to move forward, but at least this first step is free. And I think more about our water meters that we need to replace, more about our water lines, the sewer plant, all the deferred maintenance out there we've looked at. So I thought with all the discussion we have right now with possible bond issues in the code to make some dramatic improvements in our community, maybe this is something that will be another arrow in our chest there to be able to show that, hey, here's some other things and projects that we're looking at and we should consider too.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Councilman Smith?
How do you make your money, Matthew?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get that question all the time. So essentially, we are the liaison in between the ESPC project. So we are the general contractor essentially in that process of it. So essentially, we make our money on the engineering pieces of it. So the IGA costs we basically don't make money on, but other than that, the measurement and verification piece, the commissioning piece, and then any projects that we can win as a whole as well. So like I mentioned, lighting, we have a lighting team. So if we can bring that price down lower than the other people competing on it, then we make money in those arenas as well.
Are you involved in the financing?
We are. So we have a finance division. However, we are agnostic when it comes to financing. So we don't actually finance internally. We just facilitate financing. Essentially, we work with your lenders. We find outside sources as well. What is the cheapest rate that we can get this project funded for?
Thanks.
Thank you.
The only thing that I have to say is I still don't understand how this differs from what we've already done. We've had the audit, we had to come in and look at everything, and the reason it ended when it did is because there were some problems. They were doing bidding through a Texas law,
Yeah.
which didn't cover Oklahoma law, and so we weren't able to go forward with that.
Right.
And we offered them the plan back, and they didn't want it back. So we actually still have that plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what.
So the plan is something that we could definitely utilize, even to put some really close numbers together for you guys of what we would end up looking at a project, because that's, do you know how many years ago it was?
It's
About 4.
4 years ago. So because it is 4 years old, we'd still want to put an eyes on it, but we could utilize that data to put together a good plan. Obviously, if you're using Texas laws, ESPC is local to each state, so the states have specific laws that have to be followed very closely. So obviously, if they were going off Texas laws, I'm familiar with Texas laws, so they're close, but they're not. They don't work here in Oklahoma. Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem with you guys looking at everything.
Yeah.
I would prefer that you looked at the plan that we already have, so we can compare and contrast, because there's no point reinventing the wheel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the goal of it is just for us to put some high level numbers for you guys together and help try to fill some of that deferred maintenance need that maybe the city has, and just figure out what we think the best plan is moving forward. And then that's up to you guys as a council to decide whether that's the best plan for the city.
So Mayor, if I could,
Councilman Richard, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
How, for this first step that we're talking about, this first report, how much staff time would be required to prepare that report, or to aid y'all preparing that report?
Yeah. So roughly, I mean, I will have to send energy engineer in, so probably 20 hours roughly building the report. It's not a fully in-depth process, building the initial preliminary assessment, but there's definitely time involved in it.
Well, I mean, if you had to say how much time, I mean, hours, 4 hours, what would we be looking at?
Yeah, 20 hours, roughly.
Thank you.
And that's not 20 hours for the staff here, that's 20 hours of our staff. Here on site, we would probably only spend less than a day here on site to go through the facilities and get the data we need to do the high level analysis.
Mr. Stasiak?
yeah, Mayor, Council, it seems like anything that we try to do, we make it very, very difficult. 4 years ago, we did do the Amoresco. We own all of those documents. This is basically mirrors a lot of what Amoresco did. And here just recently, we just had a company come in, just completed a full LED lighting audit of the city. And we were actually provided all that information last week with our intentions to bring that lighting project to the city. So here we are with the Amoresco data. We have a complete lighting project that was just completed with all the staff and the work that was involved in this. And now we're gonna, looks like we're gonna start over again. So,
Councilman Smith.
So, why didn't we do anything from these two other studies?
Amoresco was
Did we
a bit-
pay for that Amoresco thing?
We were billed for it, we never paid for it, but we own the data. Amoresco was utilizing a Texas law, and we needed to go out for bidding with that. Mr. Irvin worked extensively on that, and we could not get that thing out to bid under Oklahoma law. But we have all the analysis, and we probably have 200 to 300 hours of staff time in on that material from start to finish.
So that's water under the bridge, right?
Well, it is, but that data could be
But we can
updated.
still use, he can
Yeah.
use the data, right?
He could look at, see what would be useful to him. The concern is we just went, like I said, we just finished an LED audit of all of our buildings here in McAllister. And just got the analysis on that and the cost projections for it, and the paybacks on that. So now we're sitting here, we were getting ready to bring that to the council.
If I may, I'll just kind of say the differences in that a little bit. So really you kind of have two avenues as a council. So the LED is a great portion. That's your lowest hanging fruit. So I mean, the fact that the city manager went out and did that, I applaud him for that, because that's something that you want to do in these situations. ESPC essentially is allowing you to leverage your saving to get your deferred maintenance stuff done. So you kind of have two totally different avenues there. And if you went out and did the lighting, for example, without leveraging the savings, then essentially that's hindering you because you have less leverage at that point, because that's your greatest savings on the asset. And I will say that even in these ESPCs, we rarely visit a city that hasn't had a lighting audit done. So what we do in those scenarios, like I had mentioned before, it is a bid out item that we do, and then the organization that came in and did the lighting assessment will be able to bid on that as well. So it's nothing that just goes specifically to us. You're really just being able to leverage your savings of that LED to get capital improvement items done that you guys need done around the city.
Okay, so just to be clear on that, the projected savings, let's say we leverage half of that.
Sure.
And that payment is guaranteed by you guys.
That's correct. So basically the way it works is you've got your energy savings, or you've got your energy and operational expense that you're currently utilizing. Whenever we come in and do LED and controls and all this stuff, we reduce that energy and operational expense. So it's essentially, if you want to think of it, it's a game of debt reallocation. You're taking the money from here and you're making your payment over here to essentially get your energy efficiency stuff done, but not just your energy efficiency items, but your deferred maintenance items that you need as well. So that is correct, and that whole amount is guaranteed. Under state legislation, there's 3 buckets of funds that are allowable for us to guarantee. First one being energy and operational expense. Second one being capital cost avoidance, and then the third one being the maintenance and cost reduction of just, you've changed out lights, you no longer have to change out the lamps and ballasts inside of those. So we can utilize those buckets of funds and guarantee that to the city. And that is the other side of it. I mean, we have a lighting division. If you guys go out for lighting bid, we'll happily bid on that lighting bid as well. But you don't get the guarantee with the lighting bid. It's easy for anyone to come in and say whatever they want to say on those numbers. Whenever we have to put our money where our mouth is and guarantee that to it, it's less risk for you as a city.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
So,
Councilor Cox.
so basically, you'll come in, analyze, do the assessment, and provide us a list of projects, i.e., the lights for, $1 million with $100,000 worth of savings, and then the HVAC controls and so on and so forth. Then, as a city, we can pick and choose which projects we want to utilize, correct?
So there's a steps of process through it under Oklahoma legislation. So basically, first step one, we do a preliminary analysis, which is what we're talking about. This is the free high-level assessment that essentially allows us to make sure we're not wasting our time on the project, knowing that it's going to meet state requirements, and we're going to be able to put you together a project. Also, make sure we're not wasting your time and going to end up with it at the end. Then you have to go to RFQ as a city. That's basically a request for qualifications. You likely did it under the Amoresco one. So you essentially go out. People submit in saying, we think we're the best one to be your ESPC provider. You select that provider, and we do what's called an investment grade audit. That's what you guys have had done with the Amoresco one. And essentially at that point, that's where our engineers comb the whole city and essentially put together that guaranteed minimum cost and the guaranteed max price. At that point, we do sit down with you and say, these are the measures we think work best in the project, but we're ultimately working with you guys in the city. So if the city says, we don't want to do water here, we don't want to do water meters here, we just take it out of the project. Maybe they want to add something else in, maybe they want to lower their finance note. At the end of the day, it's your project. All we're doing is providing a vehicle and guaranteeing the savings to the city and making sure it all gets installed properly. So for this first step one, it's really just for us to determine, is there a good project here, and then what roughly is that project? I mean, if we're talking about $100,000 worth of guaranteed savings, it might not be worth the council's time to deal with that. If we're talking about $5 million worth of guaranteed savings, that might be worth the council's time.
Councilman Boatright?
What happens with some of these buildings that we've already done LEDs in and done change outs
Yeah.
through the PSO program?
Yeah, good question. So basically, whenever we're doing that analysis, that full in-depth analysis, so the preliminary analysis, we walk in and say it's LEDs, so instead of estimating that we're going to save you this much in the building, we estimate we're going to save you this much, just for the high level. For the IGA, we come in and we do a full lighting assessment like you guys have similarly done across the city. Anywhere where you guys have made that investment to LED, we don't change that out. You guys have already made that investment. You've already spent the money on it. There's no use in us changing that LED back out. The only way we will do that is if it's a small secluded area that's maybe 4 lights, then we'll change those out just because, for warranty purposes of the facility, just so you know that if any light's out, it's on us. But we don't mess with them if you have already changed them out and captured on it. And there's also no energy savings in it as well. If you've already switched to LED, going from LED to LED won't have savings here in McAllister.
Mr. Stasiak, I have a question. What are your thoughts on the amortization, the leveraging?
And how we utilize it around the city?
No, your thoughts on, is that a good idea, a bad idea, a good program, bad program?
I think it's a good idea if we can leverage those dollars. Absolutely. You know, he just made an interesting comment about whether or not we have a project. We know we have a project.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been down this road, and we have a solid project with a lot of savings involved in it. It's how we get from where we're at today to the finish line. So, yeah, I mean, we want to leverage those dollars.
Okay, so with what we have with Amoresco, that's not possible.
Not at this time, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But the data could be updated. We own the data.
Right,
It's-
yeah,
it's
we have
ours.
it, but if it says we're gonna save $1 million, all we can say is we're gonna save $1 million, we can't borrow against that $1 million.
Correct.
Yeah, so what do you need from us?
Basically, all I'll need is just access to utility bill data and access for us to send an energy engineer here to site. We don't, as a city right now, cities are busy. So, I mean, we're trying to take as little amount of time from city staff as possible. We just need access into the facilities for us to do just a walkthrough of the facilities. Sometimes that can be done by just providing us keys to the facilities that we drop back off afterwards. Sometimes someone walks around with us. But essentially what we'll need access to is just walking in the building. We'll look in one of the restrooms. We'll look at the HVAC equipment as well.
And there's essentially no cost to us
No, sir.
until we were to implement a plan.
That's correct. There's no cost at all. It's no obligation. So if you guys come back together and say, you know what, we've thought about it and we just don't want to go down this road again, then there's no cost to you guys as a city. And if you guys did want to provide that Amoresco data, it's totally up to you guys. We could utilize some of that data to project savings as well. Whenever we do get into the guaranteed portion of it, we wouldn't be able to use their IGA to make our guarantees, just because we have to make the guarantee.
You sort of say something?
Yeah, Mayor, my comment on this would be, have these gentlemen work with me and the staff to work out a schedule. My biggest concern right now is not having a public works director and being in the middle of budget season, working on a $30 million water project. I mean, we've got the capital budget to finalize. We've got a lot going on. We've got union contracts to negotiate. There's a lot happening this period of time. So let us work with them and work out a schedule to get this initial audit done.
Yeah, and this isn't an action item for us tonight anyway, so there's no vote to be taken, but, unless anybody has any objection, I'd say we turn it over to the city manager to work out a schedule. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a request?
Yes.
Mr. Stasiak, on the information we have with Amoresco, unless Matthew objects or any of the other council members object, could we start that process with them after this evening and have them coordinate with your designee on this to move this forward then? This is how I feel. Maybe I'm missing a point here. But if we're going to be talking about large projects and putting things out to bid, wouldn't it make sense to get another set of eyes on it too? Maybe there's something that we could use in this process too. So I'd hate for us to do all of this only to miss another opportunity to improve our city, maybe through some means that we're not aware of right now.
So you're, just to be clear, because I'm not 100% sure on what you just said, you just want to allow them to see the Amoresco report?
I want them to go ahead and move forward with something that's free to the community. But after looking at the council and then hearing this, it doesn't seem like we have an action item here.
No, we don't. It's not we can't vote on it because it's not an action item. So it's more just a no objection. Okay, so thank you guys.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action on approval of funds for Penguin Management for the McAllister Fire Department funds to be used in the city of McAllister's fire department portion of the county $0.25 excise tax for fire services. I think Mr. Stasiak, you're taking this one, aren't you?
I am.
This large expenditure.
This large expenditure for our fire department. Mayor, members of the council, this money will come out of the county tax for fire. This is the e-paging system for our emergency management and all of our fire departments. The total dollar amount is $5,928, and it is shared amongst the 28 rural and professional fire departments. Total amount on an annual basis, $422.20 with 2 semi-payments of $211.71. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Smith?
What's Penguin Management?
Probably
Is
the
that just who
software.
takes the money and does something with it?
Probably the software company.
It has something to do with beepers, from what I read.
Is it down in Antarctica or? Penguin Management.
Either that or they like wearing tuxedos. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Chris but
I got your name, but I didn't hear what you said after that.
oh, I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Why do we, it seems like a lot of times when we do these fire department funds approvals, the amounts are pretty small. Why do we have to, like, how do these get on the council agenda?
I think it's because it's part of that county quarter-cent tax that it requires us to take action on it.
Okay. I wondered why, 'cause it just seemed like the amounts are, much
Yeah.
smaller than other amounts we deal with.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and make a motion if we approve it.
Is there a second? Councilman Smith, second. Any further discussion? Corge, you call the roll, please.
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 3. Consider and act upon authorizing the purchase of a new and unused 2021 year model Moorbark Eager Beaver model number 2131 brush chipper for the stormwater program and landfill. Mr. Skimbo.
Mayor, council, I'm excited to bring this piece of equipment to y'all tonight. Currently, the city only has one brush chipper that is shared between all departments. With the growth of the stormwater program, that need only grows tremendously. Last year alone, the stormwater program deposited 470 tons of brush at the landfill that still needs to be chipped. This chipper will be housed at the landfill, used for the stormwater brush and used in the field on stormwater projects. It is the staff's recommendation to accept a total pricing of $91,188.96 for this brush chipper, its warranty, delivery, maintenance and parts manuals, and on-site training from Morbark. Questions?
Mayor and council, if I could, this piece of equipment is paired with a equipment grant that we got in the amount of $30,000 from the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. So the total price is $61,188.96.
Any,
Mayor, council for 5 minutes.
go ahead.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but this one is slightly more expensive than the, I'm not sure what brand new one is, but it's a different brand of brush premier. Why did we decide to go with this?
The previous equipment was a Vermeer. That piece, the price difference is $118.96. The Morbark equipment is 15 more horsepower. It also weighs over 3,000 pounds more. It's a tandem axle trailer. It's a beefier machine for only $118 difference. The other main factor is that Vermeer could not assure us delivery prior to our grant date or the grant deadline.
Any other questions or comments? And I take a motion in a second. Motion Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're on to agenda item number 4, consider and act upon the standard form of agreement between owner and architect, namely the City of McAllister and Boynton, Williams and Associates, PLLC, for renovations and improvements to convert the former FAA flight station at 101 Airport Drive into new office and convention space, as well as a welcome center. Mr. Ridenour.
Good evening, council. The item before you tonight was actually presented during the capital budget presentation recently, so it may look familiar to you. And before Billy takes over and kind of dives into this item, I wanted to take a few moments and explain how we got here and why you're seeing this on the agenda tonight. This agenda item is a proposal to solve two challenges the city's facing right now. One, at the McAllister Regional Airport, we have several underutilized buildings that are slowly falling in, apparently. In summary, the buildings have either been vacant for some time or have leaky roofs that, if not fixed, will cause kind of the slow rotting from the inside out. In particular, with one of the buildings, the old flight service station, it's been vacant for over a decade and has a major leak that has contaminated one of the rooms with mold. If these buildings are not invested in, we're going to have to eventually solve it by condemning them further down the road. The second major problem that we've been seeing at the city is that the city has identified several services that the community is lacking that we would like to see offered. Things that we've been working on for some time, but have not found a good home for yet. Things like a commercial kitchen incubator, or a city-owned event space, maybe a high-quality conference space, even a business startup space. These are projects that we've worked on for some time and have not found a good home for. So we were thinking about how to solve both of these issues at once and kind of came up with this proposal before you tonight. It is a multi-phase proposal. This would just be the first stage, and you will see future actually at the next council meeting, probably you will see future phases of this project brought forward to you. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Billy to actually talk about the project at hand tonight.
Thank you, Council, Mayor, Mr. Stasiak. When Kirk brought this project to our attention at Tourism, we definitely agreed with him for the need of some of the space, especially meeting and conference space that a lot of times is missing within the city for large areas for meetings to be held. We also have a multitude of organizations that, from small business development to economic development, tourism, that could all be housed in this one area that is groups that work together on a continuous basis that we could all be in one area to brainstorm together. So we really feel that this would be a great project to be able to bring forward. Plus, this space would also utilize a kind of a welcome center for anyone coming off the airport or off of Highway 69 as well too, to be able to pull in, get information on McAllister, and be able to find where to go or what to do when we're there. So we feel like it would be a multi-purpose use of this building that would really benefit multiple organizations as well. From that point, we knew we needed an architecture company to come in, so we did contact Boynton Williams, and we actually have Mr. Jeff Ball here tonight, who was born and raised here, so he grew up in McAllister, and he's here to answer any questions on the architecture side or on the contract if you guys have any of that as well.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mayor and council, the city attorney has looked at the contract and he has approved the contract.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions. This isn't something we would have to bid.
No, it's professional services.
And from what I understand, the way that the architect gets paid is a percentage of what we budget to for it, so we can easily control the expense.
That's correct.
Councilman Smith?
How did we choose this firm?
Honestly, it was a company. I had been previously on the school board at Krebs. They actually did projects here all throughout. When I was on the school board, they did a safe room for the Krebs school. So I just knew that they were a well-known architecture company that has done business around McAllister. So I reached out to see what they could do. And again, Jeff was here local, so he was very interested in coming in to do a project back in his hometown.
Have we defined what we want to have done?
We do have quite a bit. You want to talk to someone on that?
Well, the concept, yes. There's a few key components of what we'd like to see in this building. One being an event space that the city would own, something 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. That's definitely a need that Billy sees out at the Expo Center that we could shift over to this building instead. A commercial kitchen incubator I mentioned. There is a need locally for food-based businesses that are starting up that can't yet afford commercial kitchen equipment, that need to expand and grow. There is a need for there to be a shared space that they could lease on a per hour basis to help them grow in a way that doesn't break the bank for them. Dedicated office space. We have several city employees and community partners that are involved in economic development activities. Right now, we've scattered them across the community. If we were to centralize them in one location, there could be some collaboration gains. Additionally, that would give the city a method of helping our resource partners with in-kind services. Maybe we subsidize the rent and give us a way to help without actually putting a financial burden on the city. And lastly, we really need, and this is, each organization has their own need in this, but for economic development in particular, we need a high-quality conference space. When we're bringing businesses and we're talking to them in town, right now we meet at City Hall, which has been closed for some time, but it's not always the most aesthetically appeasing building. I mean, it is what it is. It would be nice if we could have a nice place that when people come into McAllister, we could take them to this high-quality conference space to discuss further business opportunities. I think that Billy would probably mimic those same concerns and would benefit from having such a space. We think that this facility could accomplish all of those goals, and the other two buildings that I reference in the memo that y'all should have, the old detective building and the terminal building, I think both of those buildings could actually accommodate additional uses as well, and you'll be seeing those in the future.
I can't remember, it seems like when I've been associated with projects like this, we put it out to several architectural firms and they present their vision of what should be done so we can look at the different possibilities. and costs and such? Is that not
That's-
feasible?
It's completely feasible,
Is
if
that
that's
a-
what the council would like to see.
In the past, Councilman, we've utilized engineering firms as professional services, and that's how we've approached them, and picked those engineering firms. This is only the second time we've ever worked with an architectural firm here in the city. These people have history with the city. They do great work, and we were impressed with their credentials.
Councilman Cox?
This is early on, but I'm sure we're talking a multi-million-dollar project based on what I'm hearing. How are we gonna pay for it? When the city's in the financial struggles that we are with all the infrastructure improvements, and why would we have City Hall that's not, by your own admission, nice enough to bring people to, but rather than improve our primary facility for the city, we want to take it to the edge of town and sink millions of dollars into it. So how are we gonna pay for it?
Councilman, first and foremost, we'd be utilizing hotel motel tax and tourism dollars in order to pay for this. This building has a different purpose than City Hall. This is gonna be what's called an incubator, and we will be incubating businesses out of it. It's an opportunity for people to start with an idea, be able to grow that business, and what you wanna do is be able to push them out into the community where they're actually renting space, hiring people, and furthering their business. A lot of them just need that foothold to start, and that's what we're talking about with the incubator for the kitchen. The other purpose of that building, there's multiple purposes for that building. One is a banquet facility, a meeting facility, like Mr. Ridenhour spoke of. But I think one of the most interesting pieces of this building is the opportunity to be able to pull our partners in, which is Pride and McAllister, maybe not McAllister Main Street because they need to be downtown, but there are multiple agencies, the Chamber of Commerce, all of these different agencies that all work together. And to be able to help them have some space, some permanent space for the future, and to be able to collaborate together on a day-to-day basis, I think is huge. We see a lot of effort come through our Chamber of Commerce, especially in the side of economic development. To have our economic development out there with the Chamber and these other agencies, I think is crucial for the success of of the city moving forward. So this building, even though it needs work and everything, is a different concept than what we are doing out there with this other building. Quite frankly, in 10 years, this is the first solid idea that we've come up with for that building. We've held it. It's 10,000 square feet. It has over 100 parking places at it. It is ideal. And we have held that for economic development. And we've tried to push it for economic development. And we haven't been successful. So now we've got an opportunity and an idea to maybe make something more permanent for the future of the city of McAllister.
But isn't the Expo Center underutilized with the same square footage available to do these same type of things?
Councilman, that's an interesting conversation that we're going to be having in the future. There's several individuals that let's just say that the Expo Center has been looked at by the county and taking that facility back. They're interested in taking that facility back. We've had some initial conversations. There's some individuals that have thought for quite a while that we shouldn't be operating that facility. That is a lease facility. All the improvements that we do to it belong to the county. And so there's some interesting conversations that are coming our way when it comes to the expo.
Well, I'd like to see this building being utilized, but I think there's no downside to having a couple of 2 or 3 architectural firms look at it, provide us with ideas. I mean, it's open to being done in a lot of different ways, right? I mean, we're talking office space and a meeting center and a kitchen and so I've just noticed some architectural firms do better than others. So that'd be my 2 cents. I'd like to see something done with it.
Mr. Ball, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. I'm Jeff Ball, Senior Vice President of Boynton Williams and Associates Architects. In your packet is an intro letter that we put together for Mr. Stasiak and Mr. Ridenhour and Ms. Sumner. This type of project is exactly what we do day in and day out. And what I mean by that is Welcome Center, reutilization of existing facilities. The building that's on the cover of that document is in Ada. That was an old bowling alley that we converted to an administration building for the Chickasaw Nation. And if you saw it before, to see it now, it's quite an amazing transformation. Welcome centers, we've done 2 that I know of. We've done that are, like for a couple of different Native American clients. But to take a facility like this, and this is the building, the bones of this building are good. I mean, it's actually really ideally suited for this type of program. But as far as qualifications, I feel we are very qualified, and I know would do a fantastic job on this project. This isn't our first time down this road for something like this.
Have you done other projects locally?
Yes, sir. We've done, it's been a few years. We did the new fire station out on the east side of town. I say new, it's been a few years now.
So it's gonna be the new one until there's another new one.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's only 11 years old.
Yeah,
now.
so that's, we've done, in the past, we did the big addition at the high school years ago with Dr. Lucy Smith, and we put all the grades out there. We've done a lot of work with the school here. In the past, I've been with the firm, I think, 28 years now. And so in the last 15 to 20 years, we've done numerous projects in the city, most with the school and some with other clients. But yeah, we have, and it's hometown, so it's, on a personal level, it's a great opportunity for me to get to contribute something in my hometown. It's a big deal to me, and we take pride in all our work. But I can tell you, these are a little special. You get a chance to do something like this.
I agree, I think, with Councilman Smith, because I know we have at least one other local architect that would probably like to have a shot at it anyway.
Certainly.
I would be inclined that we do a project like this, but we talk to a couple other people as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Pritchard.
Go ahead.
I don't particularly like the idea. I don't like this idea of renovating this building and turning it into the Incubator, visitor bureaus, conference room. I think if we've had this building for 10 years, we should pretty seriously consider selling this building and finding a location that may be more suitable and certainly more cost effective than what I fear this project will cost. So, I don't know that this is the best step forward for any of the particular goals in business that I'm trying to solve them, but I just don't know that we've got the right location and without knowing too much more about it, I worry that the cost structure will be all wrong in this project. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Vice Mayor Stevens. I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
Or maybe even questions to the rest of the council. I mean, if this is something that we actively pursue, I would like to see, like Councilman Cox said as well, how are we gonna pay for it, what's it gonna look like, and where are we going with it? I mean, I'm willing to listen to any idea. I think that's great. Bring us all the ideas, we can see what works and what doesn't. Go forward, that's what we're here for. But I have a lot of reservations right now when we have an expo center that's losing $400,000 a year, and then we're gonna go out here and invest millions into this and everything else. It sounds like exactly what I've heard from Billy and Eddie in the past that we need. But I have a lot of reservations approving something tonight going forward, and we don't even have any way that, hey, we're gonna pay for it, we're gonna do this is the plan for the expo center. I hear a lot of shrouded mysterious talk, but I don't hear any plan. And I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this without some better plans, or at least a better understanding, or even some more honesty from city staff on what the actual plans are that they have in mind that we would approve.
Councilor Smith?
Is there any downside to putting this out to see what ideas are generated and what the budget would be? And, you know, it's no commitment to actually build it, to see what kind of designs come forward. Might turn out to be a great project.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things about it too, is this isn't necessarily a one-time big expenditure. It could be component. You know what I'm trying to say? It just ain't coming out of my mouth.
It's okay, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know,
This is Joe Urban, Councilman. That process is a request for proposals. It's not really putting out bids, but you can request proposals, and the different firms can show what their vision of that is at no cost to the city.
So I think it'd be a good idea to do the RFP. As far as I was talking on cost, there are some, you know, for the incubator type kitchen, there's TSEP money that's probably available for that. So it's I think what we're needing to do is take a first step to get a plan so that we can determine, number one, if we want to use the plan, or number two, if we use it, how we want to use it. So I think the RFPs would be a good idea. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is there any motion? In that case, we will move on to agenda item number 5. Thank you, guys. Discussion over a potential council partnership with Kiamichi Quilt Guild for the use and rental cost of the McAllister Expo Center for their annual quilt show scheduled October 21st to 23rd. Mr. Sumner.
Thank you again, Council. Tonight, this is just an item for a discussion on a potential partnership through the Kiamichi Quilt Guild. What this actually transpired is, before COVID, the Quilt Guild, Miss Jackie Turley, had contacted me about potentially using the expo for their next big quilt show and doing a lot of educational opportunities with the kids, along with their actual quilt show and competition, and just as their fundraising event. Unfortunately, COVID happened, and so nothing got held last year. And this year, when the budget came around, we actually, because of COVID and the budget cuts, there was no council partnerships added back into the funding. Ms. Turley actually contacted me to try to schedule their Quilt Guild again for this coming October. And I have the dates held for her. I was able to do that if it's something they're able to work out, but financially, unfortunately, I could not commit to something that is not within the budget and outside the budget year as well. So that's something that we have not prepared completely the budget, and you guys as a council have not voted on for next year. So she requested that she would be able to come at least speak to you guys tonight and let you know about their Quilt Guild and about the quilt show that they would be requesting a partnership on potentially.
Thank you, Councilman and Mayor, for seeing me. My name is Jackie Turley, and I'm with the Kiamichi Quilt Guild. That has been, it's a nonprofit organization here in McAllister since 1985. We have done a lot of projects for our community, like in different ways, like making pillowcases for hospice, baby quilts for the hospital nursery, kids quilts for PC care that go to foster children. And also in the past, we've provided free sewing lessons for people in the community that show interest, and created Quilt of Valor quilts that are presented to our servicemen and women around the state and in other states. Our ability to be able to continue these services and be a place where the love of sewing and quilting can be tended and preserved depends upon our fundraising and recruiting for new members. Our biggest way that we do this is through our biannual quilt show. Quilt shows are great events that where the tradition and love for quilt making is shared with the community. Our focus is to reach out to the community as a whole and share not only the love of quilting with them, but also show what our guild does for them in the community, and offer opportunities for more people to join in with us and serve the community in those ways. It's our hope to be able to partner with the city to host our quilt show at the expo. This will be beneficial to both the city and our guild, as it brings in quilters from in our community and outside, vendors and people of our own community together for this event. I'd like to host the show for a 2-day event in October 22nd and 23rd, and we'll have lots of different things available for anyone who visits to immerse themselves in the world of quilts. Everyone from children to adults will have something to see and be inspired by, including all the quilts that will be on display, a kids interactive corner where they can actually get engaged at their level on quilt making and how that works, vendors selling their different wares, and all in a large space environment where safety can be also kept in consideration. We'll have quilters from all over, and we will have a nationally certified quilt judge that comes and actually will judge all of the quilts that are put in for the show, and that brings in people from all over the place to visit our city and see what McAllister has to offer. Our small guild has more to offer our community, and the hope is with this partnership we're able to expand that and actually really continue to grow our guild and help in the small way that we are able to. Planning for events like this usually start January and February, but we can't do any sort of planning as far as advertising or anything like that without a venue. And to be able to put on something engaging the community like we have put together really requires a larger space, and that's where the city can really come in and help us to do that. So we hope you will agree to partner with us and help us put on a really great event that will boost morale and engage the community. Thanks.
I've been to one of the quilt shows. In fact, I got to pick the Mayor's Choice quilt. They do some incredible quilts. I mean, I couldn't imagine something as intricate as some of them are. But the problem is this is a timing issue, because we can't. Our year starts July 1st, so we can't this year spend money next year. So it would have to go into next year's budget, which we can't commit to until we have a budget. So I think, we can't tell you that yes, we will partner with you. You can maybe get an idea from any questions asked if there's a sentiment to do so on the next budget. But we just can't act. By law, we can't act to allocate money next year until we do next year's budget. Does that make any sense?
I understand what you're saying.
And I know you guys need some kind of commitment in order to be able to do the advertising things you want. But by law, we can't make that commitment until we do our new budget and it won't get finalized till the end of June. So, I know personally I would support doing that in the next year. I don't know what the other council members think. We can't, like I said, we can't tell you that we could do it. You might get a sense of what we would do at that time, assuming there's not another COVID or anything like that. But I know it's not good news, but it's what we're bound by.
I understand.
Yeah. Councilman Smith?
How do you make your money? How do you do your fundraising?
Fundraising is done quite a few different ways. We get really creative, us quilt maker types. But the quilt show is our biggest fundraising, and we have a boutique that we set up where we sell things that we've made, quilting books, all sorts of things like that. But being able to rent out spaces in the, to vendors. Also, we will have items to do for silent auction, and we also have a couple of quilts that the guild has together made that we will be doing selling raffle tickets for, all at this one event. This one event will always pays for our rent, because we rent a space at the old high school, which is where we meet every month for the 2 years, and also helps us to have some money in our budget to be able to do our community activities and pay for the supplies and things we need for that.
I noticed in here they had two possibilities. They had the expo hall rental or the entire building. I assume expo hall is all you need, right?
I'm not sure what the difference is.
Well, one of them's 6,900. I guess that's just that big area
Yes.
back in the back, and the entire building is everything else, and it's like $9,500. So.
You're correct. Yeah, there's different prices, which I attached in there for you guys to see. That.
What do they usually do? Just the expo hall?
They have never held the quilt show here yet, so this would be the first year. So that is something that, as we have talked, they weren't sure yet how, if they were able to come out, how they would space it out yet. Whether it would be the vending stuff all out in the expo hall and use some of the smaller rooms for their quilting and educational opportunities and stuff. But that is something
I
if you.
can answer that.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying what
Sure.
I meant by what. We actually have put together a map for just using the hall itself. So we would not have any need for the other rooms on the main floor.
Gotcha. So we just have to wait until the end of the fiscal year to
Right,
get money appropriated to do this.
Yeah, I think the idea of coming here was to kind of get an idea of the sense of the council. Councilman Boca?
How many vendors would you expect to have at the expo?
We have set up to have probably about anywhere from 15 to 25 vendors, but they will be renting out different size spacing. So we have larger spacing for actual quilt shops that will bring fabric to sell to quilters that will come from all over the place. Quilt shows are actually a very big deal in the quilting world. And so we will have a lot of people from all over, and they'll come, and one of the main reasons why they come is for the vendors.
How much space were you trying to get? The whole facility, or?
No, sir, just the one big main room, the hall, where like where the rodeo's held, stuff like that.
Okay.
Where have you held this before?
Previously, it was just a quilt show with very limited vendors, and we held it in the small gym at the St. John's Catholic Church. And with the whole COVID and everything, we're actually having a hard time finding anyone who's willing to even let us have it, because it's a smaller space, and they don't want anything to happen as far as on their side of things. So we're in a tough spot, because we're trying to find a place that's large enough for us to be able to not only grow this, to be able to bring in the community in on what we're doing, and to share that love of quilting with them, but also have it where everyone can be spaced out and be keep in mind the safety factor.
Hope we can make a deal.
So,
anyone else?
may I ask a question?
Sure.
So I guess my next thought or question would be, could we maybe agree to allow us to be able to move forward as if it could happen, and then I guess what our guild needs, because we want to be responsible about what we do and to move forward, and maybe just a promise that us would be for sure one of the people that you would look at as a partnership on the budget when you do that in June, just so that we can have that assurance, so that we can actually go ahead and start planning with the idea that, let's say the budget doesn't look, let's say worst case scenario and no partnerships can happen again, then we can go ahead and cancel. But I just want to be prudent too.
I will personally make sure that you guys are considered when we start doing any allocations on that.
Okay, thank you. Then I can go back to my ladies and say at least that, and then we can actually get started on making a really great show for the community.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to agenda item number 6. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending McAllister City Code, Chapter 100, Telecommunications by creating Article 3, Small Wireless Facilities, and amending Chapter 48, Fees, Charges, and Service Rates by creating Article 3, Small Wireless Facilities.
Good evening, council. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, I have before you this ordinance. This is one that we have brought to the council for a first reading prior. And we took this to the planning commission and they reviewed that. And the only modifications that have been made to this ordinance from the first time that you've seen it is that we have included some language pertaining to historic districts or design districts within our community. The historic districts would be the downtown, Northtown, and the design districts would be Wade Watson and Wyandotte. Also, the permanent expiration, because there was not one stated on there. But the planning commission did review this and they voted unanimously to recommend the approval of this ordinance, and staff just recommends that the council approve it as well.
Are there any questions? In that case, I take a motion and second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Court, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 7. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto known as general zoning ordinance number 1843 by changing the classification of the zoning districts for attractive land in lot 74 town site, edition number 4, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from A1 agricultural district to R1B single family residential district. Please flip them once again.
Yes, this one is located on South 14th Street, and it's just north of the 2504 South 14th Street, which is where the townhomes are on the north side of the road. And
East side.
East side, yes. But this is rezoning it. The planning commission also reviewed this on March 16th meeting, and they did vote unanimously to recommend the rezoning request as well.
Are there any questions or comments? This is a property behind Walnut Grove, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Across the street, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Next to the townhouse.
Okay. In between the townhouses and the homes.
Single family home.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
East
You
side of
talking
the
about
road,
the old
north of
Yoss
town.
Dairy place?
No. It's
Across the
road.
street.
Across the street, okay.
Across the street. Yeah, it's east side of 14th Street, but north of the townhomes that are there now.
Okay. In between that St. Andrews Drive. right?
Yes, that is correct.
If there are any other questions or comments? Take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Court, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Abstain.
Cox,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 8. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto, known as general zoning ordinance number 1843, by changing the classification of the zoning districts for attractive land in lot 90, townsite edition number 4, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from H1 Health Facilities District to C5 Highway Commercial and Commercial Recreation District. Once again.
I'm gonna be here in a minute.
I need to get you a chair for what we got today.
This is a piece of property that is located on the same parcel that they plan to split off from the Walnut Grove. It is the southwest corner of that property, and it runs alongside the service road there on South Ward's 9. It is 101, 920 square feet. And there is a mixed zoning in that area. They plan to build a restaurant and an auto, oil, and lube facility there on this property. The Planning Commission reviewed this as well at their March 16th meeting and voted unanimously to approve the rezoning as well.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Walnut Grove didn't have any objections, I guess.
No, sir.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Cox, second, Councilman Smith. Any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 9. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending the McAllister City Code Article 4 zoning districts and district regulations, Division 2, specific districts to modify the uses permitted after review of Section 62-260C1 Office District, Section 62-261C2 Neighborhood Convenience District, Section 62-262C3 General Commercial District, Section 62-263C4 Restricted Commercial District, and Section 62-264C5 Highway Commercial and Commercial Recreation District, specifically to permit multifamily uses, repealing all conflicting ordinances, and providing for severability.
Good evening again. This one here is to expand the housing options and the uses in our commercial districts. This would allow for the building of different types of multifamily developments, such as apartments or townhomes. This one it aligns with a lot of the recommendations in our comprehensive plan. It was reviewed by the Planning Commission also on March 16th, and they did vote unanimously to recommend the approval of this ordinance as well.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion in a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Cox.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, this is Vice Mayor Stevens.
Go ahead.
If we're okay with these uses, this is for Mrs. Linden. If we're okay with these uses, why do we need a use permit after review in these districts?
We don't necessarily need to. We could set it up as a conditional use instead, rather than a use permit after review. But the design recommendations is also part of our comprehensive plan, and also to just ensure that some of the common things that we hear whenever someone does try to rezone to multifamily or commercial, the adjoining residents, have concerns with the screening, landscaping, parking, and so forth. And so those design development criteria is listed in there.
So if we wanted to do this without a use permit after review, and we just wanted to remove that language, would it still relieve and remain the screening and different things that are in there already, ma'am?
Yes, we could do that and just set it up as a conditional use instead.
Okay. I have just a general question for the rest of the council. Is a use permitted after review something that you all feel very strongly about? Or if I made a motion to make this without use permitted after review, if there would be objections to that?
Councilman Cox?
I think that based on the comprehensive plan and the direction that it was going, we need the permitted after review, so that we're in compliance, and we have to ensure that the integrity of the project matches the neighborhood and fits to the appropriate standards.
Agreed.
Okay, that's all I needed. John.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that we could ensure that administratively, though. Anytime that someone would come and, want to permit it, we would ensure that all those elements are met before we would allow the
Why don't we
permit.
just leave it the way it is?
We could. We could do that.
Didn't you write it?
Yes, I did.
Good.
Options.
One more time. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve. Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Who made those motions, sorry?
One of us.
In some order, those two.
Okay. Councilman Cox?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 10, consider and act upon an ordinance amending McAllister City Code, Chapter 106, Utilities, Article 6, Regulation of Utility Lines, amending Chapter 48, Fees, Charges, Services, Rates, repealing all conflicting ordinances and providing for severability. I think this is your last one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Are you tired of seeing me already?
I just think you were tired of seeing us.
This one is to specify the requirements of rights-of-way permits and denote construction standards for the work that is going on in our right-of-ways, and also a way to impose any penalties or a method to recover costs and expenses due to damages or loss in our right-of-ways. This language also had been before the council for a first reading. This one has been modified to include language on notifications and locating prior to excavation. We also did reach out to the utility companies that operate in our right-of-ways, including PSO, CenterPoint, AT&T, and also the railroad. And any of those requested modifications were included here. And all the feedback that we were getting is that they agreed with this language that is here. So staff just recommends the approval of this ordinance as written as well.
Are there any questions or comments? I would make a motion from second to approve. Motion Councilman Smith, second Councilman Cox. Any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda. Excuse me. Agenda item number 11, consider and act upon authorizing the purchase of a new 2018 Great All XL 3100B 2018 model. Sounds familiar, but go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second time that we have brought the this agenda item to you. As requested in the past, there was some concerns about whether we should purchase the 2018 or the newer model. And our fleet maintenance manager had went back out to the dealership. I have provided you with a statement that came from the gentleman, our salesperson, that I think addressed some of the concerns that brought up the last time that we brought this to council.
My understanding is on the 2018 that they're essentially redoing all the hoses, seals, things like that, and giving us the same warranty as they would with the 2020.
That's my understanding, yes.
And it's about $50,000 cheaper.
Yes.
Any
It didn't
questions?
say they were gonna replace the hoses and stuff. It just said, we'll check all the fluids, batteries, and the hydraulic system for proper operation. Make sure all components are working properly. It doesn't say they're gonna
Sure.
replace all
Correct.
the rubber stuff, and plastic stuff.
That is correct, Councilman.
Correct.
In lieu of that, they're gonna give us a 60-month, 5-hour powertrain hydraulic warranty, in addition to all the other warranties.
I bow to everybody else as to what's the best thing there.
I think if we can save 50,000, and we're getting the same warranty as we would with a new one.
I'm comfortable with them throwing the warranty in. You know, I was the one that brought up the concerns the last time, and I think
Yes.
with them doing the flush and making sure everything is in working order, and then the 60-month warranty, I'm okay with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Take a motion in a second to approve the 2018. Motion Councilman Cox, second Councilman Smith. Any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 12, consider an act, consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the master agreement with Profit Stars for the Remit Plus software and support.
Yes, this piece of equipment is in our utility office, and this contract that will allow us to continue that license. And what this machine does actually is that when we get our utility payments, we actually are able to scan the utility bill and a check and make our deposits automatically to the bank. There's no need to, they get an electronic file, they get, it takes a picture of that check. It's easy for easy access for research, and it makes, it limits us to having to have errors on making deposits with our checks. It's a pretty easy process.
It's software we already use and we're happy with, and it's for the same price that.
Exactly. It's yes, it's this particular piece of equipment we've been using for quite some years. This is just a Tyler Technologies, which is our operating software. Actually covered it in their program, but actually have decided to send this out to a third party, and so they have their own contract. Otherwise, it would still be under our maintenance contract that we have with Encode or Tyler Technologies.
Any questions, comments? Take the motion and second to approve. Motion, Councilman Boatright, second Councilman Smith. Any discussion, any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Boatright,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 13. I do need to clarify something on this. This isn't anything that needs approval. It's actually discussion, because it's already the way the ordinance, I'm assuming, was written.
Yes.
Is it just goes on a consent agenda type.
That is
issue.
correct. We're just bringing it to your attention, and that this is our utility rate based on our CPI index of 1.7% increase that will take immediately effect April 1st.
Anybody have any questions? In that case, we'll move on to agenda item number 14, discussion on monthly financial update.
All right. So as we do every month, discussing the city financials, again, everybody an update on is pretty regular. The reports that you have in front of you today is as of February 2021. Our first report you have is the general fund at a glance. Our revenues are 9.95% over expenditures. Our NPWA fund at a glance revenues are 18.50 over expenses.
What percent of the year are we into? We're not-
So, I'm sorry, 66.67%.
Yeah, so we're doing pretty well then on revenues.
Yes. Our next graph that you have is our general fund sales tax revenue. Reporting in the month of March, we're up over the previous years. However, we're under the last 2 months with the sales tax. This also contributes to allowing us to be $125,736 over our annual budget, though. Out of this, we're in our 8th month, and 4 months out of the 8, we've exceeded exceeded the previous year.
We did really well in March compared to past Marches.
Yes. Your next graph that you have is the general fund use tax revenue. As you can see, we're under the for same time last year, a little over the year before that, and definitely under budget with the last couple of months or last few months that we've gotten. We contribute that to a lot of things that are kind of happening. We've kind of have mentioned it several times over that as we're seeing the use tax coming in, it's been fluctuating, you know, obviously with the regular sales tax that we've received. So we're not doing too bad, but we do see that that's possibly will continue to increase for us. The next graph is our Npwa revenues. The top graph is your water sales for residents and commercial. Doing fine there. Have exceeded over the last two years and over last month as well. So below that is our water districts with wholesale. Up over the last two years of sales with this graph, but then slightly under last year, or I'm sorry, last month. Finally, we have our treasurer's report that we're required to present to you. That basically tells you what the city has on hand at the bank. Any questions?
Nice to see good numbers. There's no questions. We will move on to agenda item number 16, which is readdressing the reopening of City Hall safely. Mr. Stasiak?
Mayor, members of the council, we brought this to you at the last council meeting with our plan to reopen City Hall on April the 19th. At that time, we were missing 2 council members, and the discussion was pretty even with 2 councilmen interested in reopening the City Hall immediately, and the other 2 more on a cautious basis and following the program and the date of April the 19th. It was requested to bring this back when we had a full council available and to listen to that conversation and see what the ideas were.
Anyone have any comments? Councilman Bode, aye.
I'm ready to see City Hall open back up, point blank. I don't see any reason we can't. Every other business is open. Why aren't we? We don't need to be hand delivering everybody from place to place. They don't need to come into City Hall. They need to make a phone call. There needs to be somebody answer the phone or get you to a department where you can talk to somebody. Every time I've called, I get nobody. I've called their private number or their cell number. I get no answer. I get no callbacks. When I'm concerned about something going on in my ward, I want to be able to take care of it at that time. I don't want to wait a week or 10 days for somebody, well, we just got your call, we'll call you back. That's not right. You don't go to McDonald's and buy hamburgers and make you wait a day or 2 to get a hamburger. You don't go to Country Mart or Walmart and buy groceries and have to wait a day to get it. Why should people have to wait a day to walk into City Hall? We are providing the mask. We've got glass partitions in place in the water office. There's no reason somebody can't walk in here and pay their water bill without touching somebody when they've got a glass between them. And I don't understand it. Everybody else does, and we're staying closed. I'm not for closing City Hall. I'm ready to open City Hall.
Councilman Cox, I think.
What prevents us from opening, say, next Monday? Why the 19th of April and not Monday?
Well, currently we have a new kiosk that's on order that will be put out in the foyer that will allow people to make their payments, whether it's with cash, credit cards, those types of devices. We also have those kiosks at Pruitt's and also at the Travel Plaza south of town. So it is not our intent, Councilman, to open up the utility office to cashiers.
Why?
Because that's not what people do anymore. There's no reason for us to have to touch that money and have a bank here in City Hall.
But is that a COVID related response, or is that an efficiency response that can be implemented later?
It could be both.
Our city hall has been shut down for a year. People have not been able to conduct regular business the way they need to conduct it. I have had complaints after complaints after complaints, as you're aware, of people trying to interface with the offices in this building, and phone calls go unanswered. They never get a return call, to the point that they are so frustrated that I have to hold the phone a foot from my ear while they scream and curse at me. It's time to open the doors.
So that's an interesting comment, Councilman, because those same people come to all those windows at the utility office and scream and curse and abuse our employees. And one of the biggest problems we have here right now is the fact that we no longer have police in this building. And I can't tell you how many times in the past we've had to go downstairs and get a police officer. But we don't have that anymore. Now what we're facing is 1,200 accounts, water accounts, that have not paid their bill. And I can guarantee you that a lot of these people think that these bills have been forgiven, not deferred. And we've got 1,200 people that we're going to be talking to individually, setting up individual contracts with 3 people. Okay, so we've got some major concerns going forward in this building. All we're asking for is to be able to utilize the machines for payment. We're going to have a person out front here that is going to be able to help any individual that wants to use the machine. You can still put your payment in the drop boxes. You can pay online. There are multiple ways to take care of your water bill. We are now setting up opportunities to be able to set those contracts up on the website. We're doing everything that we can to be able to assist our customers in the future. So we've got a monumental problem ahead of us. We have a $588,000 problem. Okay, and 1,200 people with potential requests to set up a contract. So we've got a lot of work to go on. We're going to get after it.
All the more need to open up so we can start helping those people.
We're helping them right now. So we're helping them right now.
You know, I think we forget as a community that we have a lot of senior, a lot of elderly citizens that still have not embraced technology, and we can't just wave our hands and make all that go away. And there are still lots of people that want to see who they're talking to, and they want that interaction when they have an issue or a complaint. And like I said, we've been closed a year. Everything else is open. I think it's time we open.
I second that.
Councilman Smith?
With all due respect to our esteemed city manager, I must concur. We ought to be open on Monday, next week. We should not isolate the utility department because people will hand them money. They hand them money everywhere. Fomites are not a big problem. If you've got people who are going to curse You know, if we can afford to have somebody running up and down escorting people to departments, maybe we can afford having a policeman located down there to take care of unruly utility people who don't want to pay their bill. But this is crazy. We should have been open 6 months ago, and we ought to be open now. This kiosk, how much does the kiosk cost, Pete?
I don't have those figures in front of me right now.
But just approximately, under 10,000, over 10,000?
Sherry, do you have that number?
I actually do not have that information right here at hand, so.
I mean, we're waiting on
But-
this thing. We're not opening for over a month since the last meeting, and we don't know how much it costs.
No, we do, I just don't have that in front of me, so it's not that we don't know how much
We'll
that is.
circle back. But the point is,
It'll be delivered
you know,
actually
this
this week.
remodeling of the entryway and the entryway, you know, what we need is a little signage. This is not the Pentagon. We don't have to worry about taking people up to the codes department. Have a little map there showing how to get to codes. It's not a big deal. And handling disgruntled customer, we're going to keep City Hall isolated, all our city employees from the public, because some of them are disgruntled. That just doesn't make sense. We're appeasing disgruntlement if we do that, working around it. It's ridiculous.
I'm still concerned about getting upstairs, making calls, and I'm sure some of your folks are too, about building permits, about questions that goes on, that you cannot talk to nobody. You get an answer machine 101% of the time. I don't like it. I want to be able to talk. If I want to call the building inspector and ask him what I can do and can't do, I want to be able to talk to him. I don't want to talk to a machine and wait on him to call me back. I might be out of town by then. Who knows? I just don't like it.
It's also interesting to look at the proposals last time versus this time. As far as I can see, all they've done is to make it more opaque. You know, we're canceling, they cut out the part, we'll no longer be accepting cash at the utility office. We're going to install the payment. And we took off, I don't know why, continued website improvement. Because that said we'd have forms and requests, we relaunched, blah, blah, blah.
We're still working on that.
We got rid of it. Well, we're working
Well,
on
we didn't-
everything
we
as
didn't
far as
get
I
rid
can
of
tell.
it. It
Do
didn't
we
get
have a
rid of it.
design of the lobby improvements? Do we have, you know, all these things where, you know, we're gonna designate a point of contact for lobby visitors, create a high level of customer service, and then blah, 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 redraft. Have we redrafted the key utility office procedures?
No, sir, we're working on it.
Yeah, right, we're working on, but the point is, you don't need that stuff. I mean, I'm not responsible. I know you've got a burden on your shoulders. But the public, we're not serving the public properly. We ought to be open for business and get open soon, quickly.
Before you go, I'm gonna give Councilman Pritchard, Council Vice Mayor Stevens a chance if they have anything they'd like to weigh in on.
I was just gonna put it, I just like to say, I think we're kind of, at least as I, in this conversation, I think we really have two separate conversations going on. I mean, in my mind, there's one conversation of, in terms of COVID, should we reopen this, city hall, and when should we do that? Then I think we have this larger sort of customer service, situation going on, which you hear complaints about people not calling back and being able to schedule appointments, and that's certainly something that needs to be addressed and needs to be fixed. I mean, if we have a problem with our customer service up there, we need to be fixing that. That's not really, I believe, as I understand it, the issue of COVID and the protocols that you put in place around that. And to speak directly to that point, I'll just say that, you know, we're going to certainly have to, in all businesses that can are going to reopen at some point. The things that we can do, you know, office type work, as remote as we can keep that, as long as we can keep that as a society, I think we'll be better off. I heard that just today, I think it begins Monday, that everyone in Oklahoma will be eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine, everyone 16 and over. I think it was just last week that eligibility was expanded to previous groups. So I say that to say that the vaccine rollout has been going on for a few months, maybe 3 now, and it's getting to the point where it's pretty widely available. With that being said, from the point of getting the vaccine to actually becoming effective, we need to factor in about a month. So, the longer we can keep our employees safe, reduce contact with the public, that's going to help us get this pandemic behind us sooner. And so if that means, in my mind, if that means keeping the city hall closed for another few weeks, another couple months, I think that's certainly something we should be doing. And then this customer service issue about how we respond to calls, how we respond to complaints, I think that's a separate matter that one here tonight is that we might need to devote some additional thought and resources to.
Why don't we just close permanently? Solve a lot of problems, and where did it say, why are we gonna go to a 4-day week? The country works on a 5-day week or more.
5/8.
Why 4 days? What's the problem with
We've been
that?
on 410s for a year.
Do what?
We've been on 410s for a year, and the
Oh, I
council's
know,
been
we
made
shouldn't
aware
have
of all
been.
of this.
We shouldn't have been closed for a year either, but
Let me
we're
give-
talking about opening up for 4 days a week.
Let me give Vice Mayor Stevens a chance to weigh in.
After hearing a lot of the comments and hearing different viewpoints, I'm going to have to say that the thing that's been on my mind more often than not, I can only liken this to what decisions we've made in our business and things like that as a company. And it's been uncomfortable and unpleasant. We're still making some uncomfortable and unpleasant decisions, but something that I don't think has deteriorated, and I would hope if it has, somebody would call me and complain about it too, just in my personal business, is that if I'm not returning calls and I'm not getting back with people and I'm not getting things answered in a timely fashion, and that timely fashion shouldn't be 2 or 3 days. If somebody calls me and wants to go look at a house, they're not going to wait a week on me to call back. And I don't think we got to be a week in responding to people. So I think that there is a customer service issue here that probably needs to be addressed outside of COVID, from what I'm hearing. And I get some of the same comments and calls that Councilman Cox has said. I've gotten some on water bills and water and things like that I've forwarded along to the city manager as well. So I'm not opposed to saying we need to be working on that diligently to find out if there's an issue, and it sounds like there could be an issue here that we need to be addressing sooner than later. Because when we're asking people to do and make exceptions to do things, we need to be very accessible. And that doesn't matter if we're sitting there open to the public or not. So I think I'm going to have to agree with Councilman Pritchard that I think there's 2 different sides to this coin. Whether the city hall is completely opened up or not, I'm going to leave that to the city manager at this point. I've said this before, I think this will help us in the long run by installing a kiosk, by having those things available, by being able to do things after 5 and before 8:30. I often close on homes at 4:45, almost 5 o'clock. Well, if the sellers had their water turned off that day, or they can't reach somebody, or they're trying to get a deposit up there or send a deed over, because we require these things for them before we can turn on their water, it's very difficult. So I'd like to see us improve that across the board. So far as opening up City Hall, the numbers are going down. We're being able to make better decisions. We're seeing some improvements. So as long as we can continue to see that, I'm fine with having safeguards in place. But I'm going to support the city manager on this, that if he wants to continue to do this and do it in a way that's accessible to people, and that we can answer calls and we can answer questions and we can do those things and be accessible. And that doesn't mean necessarily I can walk in and sit across the desk from somebody, but if I call, I should get a call back. And I know that sometimes that can be harder on city staff, but at the same time, we need to be accessible in one form or fashion or another.
My position on it has been clear. I'm all about doing what we can to keep the employees as safe as possible, and we're getting much better in Oklahoma, and I think it's not. I think waiting, what is today, 23rd, 3 weeks to open isn't a big deal. I agree that I don't think that the utility office should be open, because there's not a utility in the state that you can go in, that you can walk into their office and make a payment on. You can't do it with PSO, you can't do it with CenterPoint. that just doesn't exist anymore. And we have got, you can pay by phone, you can drop it in the slot, you can pay online, you can have a bank draft. We've got numerous ways for people to pay, and I mean, I think we're just getting in line with what the other utilities already do on that.
Right, but that should not have any bearing on opening City Hall. That is a efficiency improvement that the city manager's making to align with industry standards. It's not necessarily driven by
It's not a
COVID.
COVID. Yeah, it's not a COVID issue.
Right.
But my position on the COVID issue is, we can see the finish line, and now's not the time to let off. If we wait another month, it's not. We've made it a year, and we've been fairly successful. Don't change, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is my position on it. But, Ms. Swift?
I would like to just kind of add to what the frustration, not to add to the frustration, but to clarify some things. This last year has been rather difficult for us here at the city to be able to provide the services that everybody's accustomed to. A lot of things have been brought to our attention that just don't work anymore. And what we have often heard over the years, or from our community, your complaints that you're getting as council members, is that we have we could do better on our customer service, just like Councilman Pritchard and Stevens had said. And this year has brought, this last year has really brought to light a lot of where we have fallen short, let's say. And the plan that we brought to the city manager with helps of opening back up City Hall or whatever, is that we would like to take this opportunity actually to improve our customer service. And given the opportunity to, again, continue to provide the options of people making their payments. And we've actually looked at different things, like Councilman Stevens says, about, the requirements that we have when someone's opening their account. We're looking at all of those things. And all of those things, in order to change those things, do take a little bit of time. So from the last council meeting till now, it's not that we've not worked on those or not have a plan of action, but we just really would like to take the opportunity to improve our customer service and provide, the best experience for our residents. And whether that to be, face to face or, on the phone. I know that the utility office gets a lot of flack about, the phones ringing off the wall, or them not returning their phone calls. I will guarantee you every call that is left on a voicemail is returned, without a doubt. I will sit here and tell you that does not happen right now. Maybe it did in the past, and maybe it did, 6 months ago. I don't know. But right now, that is not happening in the utility office. Every phone call is returned. And we would like to continue to provide, improve our customer service with the actions and the plans that we have presented to you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Vice Mayor Stevens.
Go ahead.
That was Mrs. Swift speaking, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify some of my comments, I think there has been improvement, because I have gotten less calls. And from the last thing that we had at the council meeting for that, and what we talked about with the water and reaching out to people, I know you have been. So to clarify my comment, I think we need to improve, but just like I was talking about with my company and what I do, I'm trying to constantly improve because I don't always do my best. So I don't have any complaints other than let's just keep improving. I appreciate the work that's being done.
Councilman Smith?
I think it's commendable that we are trying to improve customer service, and we should. We should do it a lot more than we do, maybe. But I gotta fall back on what Billy Jack said. Why is it that every other institution in this place has been open for months? They're not falling over like flies at Walmart. They take that filthy money and they're happy to get it. As Steve says, we got a lot of citizens out there who don't want to pick up the phone and talk to a phone on this stuff. They want to come up to the codes department and parlay. You know, you mentioned, John, 2 places where you can't go in and pay in person. Both of them corporations. You know, I would be really surprised if I can't go and find city utility places around the state that still interact with their citizens. I may be wrong, but I'll bet you I can find it. The point Billy Jack makes, though, to me is valid. Why are we sitting here when every other place is open? They're taking money, they're talking 2 feet apart, 3 feet apart. You know, it's nuts.
Any other comments, questions? I don't know if we've helped Jenny on your decision, Mr. Stasiak.
No, we didn't help him.
We will move on to agenda item number 16, which is discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2704 that amended chapter 54, Health and Public Welfare of the McAllister City Code of Ordinance. This is the mask mandate, and unless anyone is wanting to remove it, if we take no action, it just continues. So
I'll make a motion to change it from a mandate to a recommendation.
is there a second?
Yeah.
Councilman Smith, second. Is there any discussion?
Okay, before we vote, what does it mean to be a recommendation versus the mandate? Does that take off the mandate, I assume?
Mm-hmm. And as the city council, we recommend that individuals should continue to wear their mask, but we're not going to beat them up against the head if they don't. It's a personal responsibility.
Or if a business requires you wear a mask, then you should wear a mask. You should obey what they ask you. But the mandate forcing everybody to wear a mask everywhere you go, every time you get in the car, those days are over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would disagree strongly with that. That we've got somewhere around 20% of the population vaccinated. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. We're getting to where we need to be, and we can see the finish line. But now's not the time to stop. It's the tortoise and the hare thing. You know, if slow and steady wins the race, it makes sense to me until we have more people vaccinated, which I assume would probably be next month, because even the president is saying that by July 4th, that people should be able to barbecue and hang out together without wearing masks. So, you know, we in Oklahoma are farther ahead than the rest of the country as far as vaccination being done, and also the fact that they have opened it up to any adult at all. So by next month, you know, I would imagine our number is going to be about as high as our number is going to get. And so, like I said, I would say, you know, stick with it.
Okay. You know, we see things all the time on both sides of this argument about masks. But it's easy to see a number of states and countries and look at the graph of cases and see that when mask ordinances were put in place versus another state that didn't put them in place at that time, the results are almost identical in terms of the spread of the virus. Same with countries. We got countries that had no mask mandates, we had those that did, and their results are just about the same. So I'm arguing, along with Steve, that if you believe your mask protects you, even though it's not an N95 or an N99 mask, which would, then wear your mask. But don't force everybody else to do so. If you're really concerned, stay at home.
the issue with that is that the mask that you're wearing, assuming it's not the N95, is used to keep me from coughing
I'm
on
aware
you.
of that.
You know,
But
so-
you gotta believe, if you think your mask is effective, that if I was unmasked, it wouldn't get through your mask.
All the science shows it's effective. And
No,
if I,
all-
it's,
Wrong, John. All the science does not show it.
all of the
science on
reputable
CNN and
science shows that
MSNBC
it's
show it.
effective.
All the science doesn't show it.
And I have yet to have a medical professional tell me now's the time to stop. And I think if we're gonna make a decision.
And they don't know half the time.
If we're
They're
gonna
making
make a
an educated
decision that
guess.
involves people's health, we should probably rely on medical professionals to advise us on that.
I second Steve's motion for the recommendation.
Is there any other discussion? No. Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Stevens,
No.
Mayor.
No, and the motion fails. We will move on to agenda item number 17. It's discussion and possible action to appoint a charter review committee. That committee made up of me, Weldon, Councilman Smith, former Mayor Steve Harrison, former Mayor Kevin Priddle, and former Judge Jim Bland. This came about mostly, this is mine, it came about mostly because of what has happened when trying to fill the fourth ward seat, the way it's written in here and the way that the state works. It's gonna be 14 months before that, from the vacancy to when that election could be held, and that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, anything that is changed in the charter, of course, has to go to a vote of the people. So, I asked Councilman Smith and the former mayors and former Judge Bland if they would be willing to sit down and go through this and come back and make any recommendations. Are there any questions? In that case, I would make a motion to approve. Second, Councilman Smith. Any further discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries, and I would ask that any of the other council members that have any suggestions to get them to any member of the committee, and we will go through them. With that, we'll move on to new business, any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of the posting of the agenda in accordance with section 311.9, title 25 of Oklahoma State statutes. Do we have any new business, Mr.
We do
Susan?
not, Mayor.
How about we go to your city manager's report then?
Mayor and council, I don't know whether or not you're aware of it or not, but we have a private donor who really likes our parks and our cemeteries. And over the last about 6 weeks, this gentleman and his family have donated or has given us the money to purchase 2 John Deere Gators and a 4-wheeler for our Parks Department. He also purchased, we purchased with his money 2 lawnmowers for our Parks Department. These are the big riding lawnmowers that are about $11,000 a piece. A tractor bucket for one of our pieces of equipment. He has purchased a message board for Mike Deek, along with 4 drinking fountains for various parks at the city, in the city. And he's also purchased 2 lawnmowers for the cemetery. This gentleman has just stepped forward, and it's just amazing what he's done and given our parks and cemeteries this new equipment and this opportunity for all of our citizens. So it's pretty phenomenal what he's done. I want to give you a quick update on some of the projects. Tonight we're having a shutdown, and this is in regards to the new 16-inch water line out in front of Kiamichi on Kiamichi Drive. They are making that tie into that new line. I'm actually excited to have this done That line has probably breaks every year or has a leak in it every year. So we are solving a long-term problem there. Water will be shut off from 11 o'clock this evening till 5 o'clock in the morning, and mostly affected are the businesses down on the highway. But because we're doing it at 11 o'clock and getting it back by 5, they should not really realize anything. The Sonia Way Stormwater Construction project is starting this week. That's going to be disruptive down in that area, but it's going to be improving that stormwater drainage system that's collapsing. Council approved that in the past. I'm excited to tell you that the clear well, half of it is complete. The side that hasn't been operable for many, many years has been sealed up, has been filled, and now we have taken down the other side. So the side that was that was leaking millions of gallons is actually filled right now and is feeding the city. So the other half is being completed right now. The water plant clarifiers have been ordered. Both of those will be delivered, and we are looking at an April 16th completion on both those clarifiers out at the water plant. Just wanted to mention really quickly on the shopping center, I had an opportunity to go out there on Friday. They are pouring pillars for some of the buildings out there. They're getting ready to start pulling. Those walls are going to be what are called tilt-up walls. So they'll be pouring the walls on the ground, and then they'll bring in a crane and they will lift those walls and set them on the pillars, the foundations. So one day you'll see not much going on, the next day you'll see walls going up. So it's happening very quickly, and it's moving forward very quickly. All of the retailers and restaurants and everything are still in place. They are still looking at February of 2022 for a full opening of that facility. The last thing I have for you is Thursday night we have a special meeting at 5:30. That's to discuss the $30 million water improvement project for the city of McAllister. We will be discussing more in depth how to fund that project and how to move that project forward. So 5:30 up in the conference room here at City Hall. So it's a very important meeting. I'm excited to have that moving forward. We will have Mr. Wolf on a Zoom call, so he will be there to answer any questions, but hopefully we'll have a good dialogue with Mayor, Vice Mayor, and the council. That's all I have there.
That Zoom call will be available to those that want to call in.
That's correct.
We're on to remarks and inquiries by the City Council. Council Smith.
Which reminds me, John, now, am I correct in saying the governor has lifted that emergency declaration or whatever it was?
He's removed, he's basically removed any restrictions whatsoever in the state. The telecommuting law is legislation, it's not
So that's
governmental.
not affected by it?
No.
No, I have not.
Councilman Cox?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Councilman Boatright?
Nothing.
Councilman Pritchard?
No comment.
Did you say, I didn't understand you.
No comment.
No comment, okay. Vice Mayor Stevens?
Yeah, I just wanted to pass along thank yous from in the Kincaid area on the improvements to the road out there where they've recently got things and building a few deals there on Williams. Specifically the Williams family, they were very, very appreciative and wanted me to pass it along to city workers and say thank you so much for all the work you guys have been doing. They're very, very happy with it.
In that case, we will recess the council meeting, and I would take a motion to convene as McAllister Airport Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the March 9th, 2021 regular meeting of McAllister Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item C4 and adjourn. Motion Councilman Cox, second Councilman Pritchard. Raise your hand. BJ. Get a second, Councilman Smith. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, yeah.
I've got one question. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you say that we're going to confirm action taken on city agenda item 4. We took no action, so we're just confirming that, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, inaction is actually considered an action, I think.
Okay, that works, thank you.
Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to convene as McAllister Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the March 9th, 2021 regular meeting of McAllister Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Items C, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Cox, second Councilman Smith. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Cox,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. I will now take a motion to convene as McAllister Retirement Trust Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the February 23rd, 2021 regular meeting of McAllister Retirement Trust Authority. Approval of retirement benefit payments for the period of March 2021 and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens, Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Yes,
Mayor.
and the motion carries. I now take a motion to go into executive session in compliance with section Title 25, Section 307B2. Consider an act to convene an executive session pursuant to Title 25 of Oklahoma State Statutes 307B1 for confidential communications between the public body and its attorney to discuss employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee, or particularly city manager, Peter Stasiak. Take a motion and second to go into executive session. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and we are now in executive session. Carry that up.
Got it.
These walk-ups.